Differentiated instruction through the lens of dance pedagogy. Students have various abilities and needs, cultural backgrounds, and learning preferences. Differentiation supports these differences by approaching learning needs individually. Flexible learning groups are a general principle of differentiation and are based off of prior assessment of interests, learning preferences, and are dictated by students, teachers, or randomly. Students should be comfortable with grouping and collaboration, and they should be grouped and regrouped frequently based on their learning needs. Choices should be based off of prior assessment of knowledge and student interests. Students should be taught how to make choices and to select their preferred learning conditions. Choices should address the same curriculum expectations and should take the same amount of time as other tasks. Respectful tasks should be thoughtful and engaging, equal in opportunity, encourage growth, and students should be assessed on the same criteria and focused on the same learning outcomes as their peers. Continual assessment occurs during and after the learning process. Assessment should reflect learning outcomes and have opportunities for self-reflection. Students should have clear criteria for assessment, co-construct it, and be able to articulate learning goals, and ultimately be provided alternatives if need be. Student learning needs include student learning profile, readiness, and interest. Profile includes student preferences in receiving information, like sensory or environmental. Readiness includes students' prior knowledge of content and past experiences, and interests include what they're passionate about, intrigued about, or curious about. Further, I believe that differentiation can occur in dance pedagogy, specifically in the areas of content, process, product, and environment. Today I'd like to address this through a 4th grade general education dance lesson on the concept of improvisation, in which students will comprehend the definition and physical application of the word improvisation using discussion, visual maps, and movement, and will create a body part dance using improvisation tools in groups of 3. The first area of differentiation is content, which is meeting students at their current ability level by varying presentation of material based on learning needs and prior knowledge. In my lesson plan, I do this by providing the lesson schedule in various forms, as well as self-monitoring timers. Content was inspired from student interest in making a dance. I assess prior knowledge and scaffolded understanding of key concepts by role-playing a discussion of the term, asking students to brainstorm the definition, followed by a group discussion and group mind map on the board. Additionally, students will have been provided guided notes on which they can fill in content covered, definitions of improv, and draw a version of the mind map, as well as have a task checklist for encouraging positive behavior and keeping on task. I will demonstrate physical improvisation with student volunteers, which is something students will have been exposed to prior. Further, students will then be asked to brainstorm quietly and individually on how improvisation occurs in thinking and moving, to encourage waiting behavior and self-reflection. Differentiating for process includes varying respectful learning tasks based on student learning needs and abilities. In my lesson plan, I differentiated for process, beginning in the following ways. I eased transitions by referencing verbal and written schedules. I explained instructions verbally while physically demonstrating and having students repeat instructions. I defined negative space by referencing prior knowledge, emphasizing that any body part can be used in the game at any level and any speed. Students with physical disabilities can dance with their peer or para, choosing to continuously move in place, or observe. Although all students will observe at one point, students observing will note how body parts think on their own, and the game will be played in silence with quiet music for auditory reprieve. As a cued transition between process and product, students will individually brainstorm body parts they saw used in observation, coming together to create a list of parts and voting on 5 or 6 to provide choice for the product activity. Differentiation for product includes varying the type or complexity of assessment, assignment, or tasks based on performance level, ability, and understanding to demonstrate learning. I did this in my lesson plan by first reviewing key vocabulary in all methods, such as visual maps on handouts, etc., and then explaining and writing the task on the board. That students will demonstrate learning by working in groups of 3 to create a body part dance, choosing a body part from the list stemming from the negative space game. The groups would be assigned prior based on students' physical abilities and comfort levels that they explained to me in prior conversation. Students and groups will have a choice of how to fulfill engagement with the assessment in one of 3 roles, as director, performer, or recorder, which will be offered to them based on their comfort level and learning preferences. Students will know the criteria for assessment prior to beginning, as completion of the body part dance showed live or in a video, and engagement in one of 3 roles. Students will might need visual processing time, who are afraid of performance or experience sensory overload, can watch a filmed recording of their group's video and analyze the work in conversation with me, on paper, or by drawing. Finally, to provide self-assessment, reflection, and review, students will individually reflect, written, or in conversation, on the key concept of improvisation, how body parts can improvise, and how improvisation helps their movement and mental awareness in class. Differentiation of environment includes the overall layout of the class, the use of space, and promoting feelings of comfort. I did this in my lesson by prioritizing environmental needs, providing headphones to students to cancel noise during brainstorming. I indicated quiet areas, hydration areas, and workspaces, which students can choose, and spots and mats on the floor for seating. I provided this information when students entered the space to provide spatial awareness, and partnered small groups so that students with physical disability or spatial awareness will have a para or peer tutor to assist with movement and processing. Paras and I will further circle the room, ensuring students are on task, hydrated, comfortable, and aware of times for breaks and transitions. Collaboration includes working together as staff, committed to student learning, with common goals, visions, plans of action, and research-based practices. I focused on collaboration by using para-educators in my lesson for demonstration, assessing prior knowledge, and defining key terms. I utilized peer tutors to assist in movement understanding, spatial orientation, and verbal sharing of information. And I collaborated with administration and the SPED team to acquire assistive technologies like noise-canceling headphones, seat cushions, and filming devices, as well as looked over IEPs prior to the lesson to ensure alternative testing, movement accommodations, and opportunities for various learners. Finally, collaborating with the 4th grade team to incorporate ideas of improvisation into curriculum to align with content areas. Differentiation is a necessary method of inclusion and providing a fair education to all students. It is possible in the dance classroom and can be a wonderful kinesthetic way for learners to deepen understanding of academic material and self, growing in bodily inclusion and bodily awareness to develop beyond the classroom.